Assalamualaikum dear student, this is me your subject teacher Ms. Javeria Gill, and I will teach you the subject of science. First of all, I have to show you the preview of our subject book, and our topic is heating and cooling. Let me explain what actually heat is. Heat is the form of energy flowing from one body of matter to another spontaneously due to their temperature differences. Now, let me explain what are the main characteristics of heat. Heat always transfer body from body of higher temperature to body of lower temperature, or we can say that heat flows spontaneously from a hotter body to a cooler body. Now, what is the difference between hot and cold? Have you ever analyzed this in your daily life? I will explain you this with examples. In our daily life, we come across a number of objects. Some of them are hot and some of them are cold. Example, tea is hot and ice is cold. Some objects are hotter than others and some are colder than others. We often decide which object is hotter than the other by touching the objects. We cannot always rely on our senses of touch to decide how hot or how cold an object is. The hotness of an object is measured by its temperature. When we add heat to body, motion of its particle increases, and when we remove heat, motion of its particles decreases. Now, I'll define to you temperature is a measure of how hot or cold something is. It is measured in degrees Celsius. Temperature is measured with the help of a thermometer as shown in the picture here. There are two scales mentioned on thermometer. One is called as Kelvin scale and another called as Celsius. The temperature at which the particles stop moving is called absolute zero. Is the temperature at which a material has no heat energy. This temperature is minus 273 degrees Celsius. It is convenient to use a temperature scale starting at absolute zero. This temperature scale is called the Kelvin scale. It starts at absolute zero. Now we'll discuss about the transfer of heat. In what ways it is transferred? Heat is transferred in three different ways. They are: in this video, we will learn about different ways in which heat can be transferred from one object to another object by conduction, convection, or radiation. When heat from one object gets transferred to other object by direct contact, it is known as conduction. For example, when we make tea, heat from stove gets transferred to steel pan because of direct contact, and thus this is conduction. When you iron your clothes, heat energy gets conducted from iron clothes. In convection methods, movement of particles of liquid or gas cause transfer of heat from saucepan. Let's take example of pot of water. As we heat it, water particles near the heat source get heated first. We know that addition of heat causes increase in movement of particles. Thus, these particles move randomly and a relatively empty space is formed. To fill these space, particles from far areas move here again. This process goes on and whole water becomes hot in conduction and convection. There is a medium in which heat gets transferred, but there is no medium in between sun and earth. Still we get heat from it. When heat transfer takes place without any medium, it is called radiation. You must have seen people sitting around the fire here too, heat is transferred in the form of radiation. In fact, every hot body radiates heat and becomes cold. Take an example of boiling water on a stove. Heat conducts to pot as it is directly in contact. Due to connection, all the water particles receive heat. If you bring your hand very close to sides of the pot, you will feel little hotness. This is because of radiation coming from pot. Last example is called as a vacuum flask. Now this plus a very amazing thing because it brings all three methods of heat transfer together in one. Or you can say that this vacuum flask was to prevent all three methods of heat transfer: conduction, convection and radiation. If you put liquid in here and it is cool and you kept down a stopper, liquid here will be able to remain cold for a long period of time or hours. If you put a hot liquid in here and you close the cap, this liquid will remain hot for few hours. The key point over here is that the sides of the flask are almost completely enclosed in a space where air has been sucked out of, which means this part is a vacuum. Over here, in addition, the part with a vacuum has glass, silver surfaces, and over here the plastic cap and a foam. Let's talk about how it prevents heat transfer. If there is a vacuum, it prevents energy transfer by conduction and convection. Silver surfaces, inner silver surface reflects radiation from hot fluids back into the flask. Therefore, this would also help to minimize radiation and its absorption. Plastic cap reduce thermal energy transfer by conduction, stops convection and evaporation. Now comes to the summary of the topic. Thermal energy can be transferred by conduction, convection and radiation. Conduction and convection requires a material medium, while radiation does not require any material medium. Now dear student, this is the time for your homework. Hope you understand the lecture well. Follow your week 1 and week 2 homework by watching this video. You have to attend all these questions in your copy except of page number 11, exercise 1 and 2. Thank you so much.